What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. I have Meredith Tomlinson with us from the Tomlinson Group at eXp Realty. Meredith, thanks so much for jumping on the Tell Me More podcast.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm super excited. One, obviously, we share the same brokerage, and you have recently switched over in the last 3-4 months, and
basically the beginning of the year.
Yeah, and I don't know you on a personal level, so this is going to be a great conversation. I always enjoy these conversations a little bit more. Not that I don't enjoy the other ones, but where I get to actually connect with agents for the first time and really get to understand your story and your journey to getting into real estate. So, Meredith, where we always kick off here is the very, very, very beginning. What was life like for you?
How back are we going here?
We're going way back. What was life like for you growing up as a kid?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. So we're in Chillicothe, Ohio. Super small town. We're about an hour from you in Columbus. So this is where I grew up. Super small town. Maybe like most kids growing up, you're like, yeah, I'm never coming back, right? Like small town, there's bigger and better for me elsewhere. So grew up here my whole life, went to college at OU, and thought that was like, never coming back. So I graduated from OU and then ended up living in Cincinnati for a while in Columbus. And during that time met my now husband. And even during that time, he had come back to Chillicothe because he also grew up here and went away and did the things that we always do during that time in our lives. And I said to him, you realize I'm never coming back to Chillicothe, right? And he's like, yep, I got it. I'm not staying long either. Like we'll figure it out eventually. And so it was a long distance thing for a while. I was in Cincinnati, he was here. And then the day came when he said, well, I'm going to be buying my dad's business. So we are here. And so it's a family business since 1853.
Wow.
And so it was a little hard to say no to that. So we are back. I am back. But it doesn't even feel like, it's been 18 years now. So we're back in Chillicothe, raising our 3 children now and both running our own businesses. So.
Can I ask what the family business is? Because that's
insurance.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, again, things that he never thought he would be doing, but it works. So, and obviously a completely different perspective, right? Like being adults coming back, like we love Chillicothe. We're super involved. We are heavily involved in our downtown and the revitalization that's been going on the past 5-8 years. I started a nonprofit and we opened a children's museum and we own various buildings. And so I think just that different perspective of like, okay, I'm back, like maybe not what I thought I would be doing, but like it's up to you and like how you want to approach it now and really embracing our community.
Take me on that journey of, your career path up into you deciding that you want to be a real estate agent.
Yeah. So I graduated from OU actually with a degree in fashion merchandising. So never thought that I would be doing real estate. And again, there's not an industry for me here. And using that. So that's where a lot of the long distance came into play. And once I did move back to Chillicothe, I was commuting to Columbus. My mother-in-law was actually a real estate agent. And so she's the one that encouraged me to get into the industry, which again, I thought she was crazy. She was living in Cincinnati and had been in the industry for about 30 years. So that's really my, I guess, intro to the industry. Nothing that I ever even considered or thought I would be doing. But I did not want to be commuting, and I wanted to be here more locally, and that allowed me to do it.
So basically you guys are you and your husband are kind of following in his parents' footsteps, right? You got one in the real estate side.
Yeah, actually I never thought about that, but yeah, we are, oddly enough.
And so it was just simple that, there was not really the opportunities and you were tired of just doing the commute.
The commute, and we were newly married at the time and just kind of wanted, I was working a job that was sometimes nights and weekends and just kind of wanted to be here and kind of be on the same schedule, I guess, if you will. That was challenging though, going from that full-time salary benefit position to real estate when that was in 2006. So
Okay.
right before things went way down.
Yeah.
So I think that was, in the big scheme of things, probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I thought, if I can survive this, I can survive it, right? Like,
Yeah. It's
so,
an interesting perspective because I also grew up in a small town. I have no desire to go back to said small town. My parents kind of still live in the area just because my grandpa's there now. And I always joke that was my motivating factor to make it into real estate was, not to go back,
yeah,
but it's an interesting perspective of, you had a career, left, came back, still had a career, but kind of commuting. And then all of a sudden it's okay, '06, let's switch up gears. Let's get
yeah,
into real estate.
yeah.
Um, how did you focus on building your business? Because outside looking in, and studying other agents and successful agents performing at a high level in the small town, sometimes it's hard to capture some of that market share. How did you focus on building your business in the beginning? Obviously, we'll talk about '08 and '09 and 2010, but in the beginning, what was some of your thought process of getting in and trying to gain a footing in a small town where there's not that many transactions going on?
No, there isn't. And honestly, I feel like there was a lot of challenges, I guess, if you will. I mean, I was still fairly young coming back. Obviously, no experience, having just jumped into the industry. What I did do was I found an agent, like a seasoned agent in our area that had been in the industry for a long time, probably the most successful agent in our community. And she was my mentor. And I latched onto her and followed her for probably 2 years, made no money. But that's how, like, I like to learn. I like to follow and watch
Yeah.
and really absorb as much as I can. So I would say that was probably my biggest entry into the industry, was finding that mentorship.
I think that is a misconception of real estate agents in small town that no one will actually mentor you.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of different agents, in small towns and obviously big cities. And, that's just I think a misconception across the board in general. Like even here in Columbus, it's, oh, no one's really going to take me under the wing and show me, exactly what they're doing. But there are those people. You just have to find them, right? And that's what I tell agents. Like they're out there. You just have to find them.
I think it's those people that actually, I feel it's usually the more, I don't know if successful is the right word, but like they see the value in that. And it's, there's nothing to be guarded about, or not be able to share. Like there's enough business for everybody. And so I think it's those people that you might look up to, or that are successful, that you think, oh, they would never help me. But actually I think it's more of those types of people that do.
Yeah. And I think every person that I've had come on here, everyone has had a mentor,
Oh,
right?
really? Yeah.
Someone, right? And to your point, right? The most successful agents typically had someone that helped them.
Hmm.
And so they
Yeah.
understand. Now they may not be outward as like open and saying, "Oh, hey, come and I'll share." But I bet if you approach a lot of those successful agents in your market, a lot of them will have conversations with you and give you guidance and, teach you some of the things that they focused on in order to get things rolling.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about '08, '09, and 2010.
Yeah.
What did you do to navigate those waters? Because, you were still relatively new
Yeah.
to the
I
industry at that
was. I
and it
was.
kind of got flipped on its head.
Yeah, interestingly enough, that period of time, my mother-in-law that I had mentioned earlier, that was an agent, she moved back to our area as well. She thought she was going to come back and retire. She actually came back, and we ended up partnering up. The brokerage that she worked for in Cincinnati opened an office here for us specifically. So we jumped in it together as partners, and that's really what got me through that period of time. Just having that person, again, someone experienced, a mentor, and just being able to have that support in each other. It's a very lonely industry, or it can be. And so during that period of time, just going back to basics, I guess I didn't know any different, but according to her and what she was teaching me, the script, she's old school. So it was Mike Ferry, I guess at the time, was her experience in coaching, and the scripts and door knocking and cold calling, and like all of those things that nobody wants to do. She taught me, and I did it. And it was nice to have someone doing it with you. And I think that's what really got us through those years for sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you is, how did you focus on building the business? Was it SOI based? Was it, some other way?
It was some SOI looking back, but again, being so new, I probably didn't even, I mean, and let's be honest, at that time, I had no systems in place. I didn't have a CRM. I had spreadsheets, and so I think during that time too, it was before I had kids. And so I was just super involved in the community as much as I could be. I was in all the organizations. I sat on a lot of boards. And so that's what I did to get back into the community after coming back and to start networking with people again.
Yeah.
In addition to those kind of everyday skill set things that we did together.
Did you have doubters, supporters?
Oh, a ton of doubters. My own family. Yeah. My parents were not supportive. They're like, why would you get into real estate? Why would you do this? Like, what are you going to do? Like my dad, what are you going to do for your health benefits? Everybody's a realtor. Why? Like all of the things. That being young, I really felt like I had to prove myself, oh, what if she thinks she's doing? Maybe it was all in my head, but that's what I thought for sure. Yeah. I probably my husband and my mother-in-law probably were my only supporters, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's interesting, right? Because a lot of times, agents come from different career paths. So they're giving up the secure job. Yeah. Right. And, I think it's getting easier now to be more open-minded about entrepreneurship and, going out and making your own money. I think obviously COVID helped out a lot with that, side hustles and all of those, all of that stuff. It's just, I always like to learn about the dynamics around, your circles and your family. And, is it a motivating factor? Are you someone that needs more of the support to keep things going? Or are you more of, I got to prove someone wrong to keep it going?
It was the latter for sure for me. And I found over time, I guess that's my personality of I guess that's what pushed me even harder. And honestly, I'm in a community and our industry is, I guess the professionals in our industry I was very young, I guess, probably one of the youngest agents in our area. And so not only that, but then the people that you're working with in your industry, I felt like there was very much, that divide, I guess, if you will. So not only having to prove myself to, I guess, my family or whatever, but to the industry as a whole, I felt was very challenging.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically, and it's different for me here in Columbus. There's a lot of agents and you're in a smaller town where there's not that many agents. And now it's the younger agents coming in, going against the older, agents and the way that they normally do things and how they've done things. And, and I'm sure
I definitely experienced a lot of, you can't do that type stuff.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. And, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about your marketing and all of those things, and that's probably way different than what was done before. And so when you got in, was it instant success? Were there some struggles there?
Not at all. Like I said, during those first couple of years in finding my mentor, no, it wasn't. It was just learning as much as I could and making next to no money. My husband at the time was in the process of buying his family's business. We had no money. I can remember Andy being like, how am I going to make payroll this week? I don't know what we're going to do. Right. And so I think that's the interesting thing. And I don't talk a lot about this, but people see the now. Yeah. And they think oh, but it's been a lot of hard work getting here. So, yeah.
And I think, we don't talk about that, right? Yeah. The social media stuff and, all of the wins, it's the same thing for us. It's we're a fairly large team now and we do a lot of deals, but they didn't see, the struggles of, trying to keep the internet leads going for me and, paying for admin and all of those things in a different market, different time, different price points. But
yeah, for sure.
So when did you decide, take me through your real estate journey? Obviously you now have a team, kind of take me through that path of, okay, made it through, the downturn, what was the other side? What did that look like for you? And then when did you get to the point of okay, now I really need to go and build a team and have agents around me?
Yeah. So I was partners with my mother-in-law. We were running a satellite brokerage, basically from the company she worked with in Cincinnati. We did have a few agents working within the office, but it just kind of came a point in time where she didn't really want to manage. I didn't want to manage. And I'm like, let's just go and just sell And so we actually ended up connecting with Coldwell Banker, which was a pretty big office in our town at that time. And we became part owners in that company. And so that was kind of that next step of a little bit of a larger office, more agents, more experienced agents, and kind of getting that different, I guess, perspective as an owner within the company. So we did that for a few years. And then eventually I started having children. She got to retirement age, like ready to finally, you know, take that jump. And I was ready to be on my own at the time. You know, I did feel like I got that mentorship that I was looking for those period of years. And I was, you know, as much as I learned a lot from her, there did come a point where, you know, we were very different in a lot of ways. It's my mother-in-law, so let's just be honest about that. B, she's my neighbor and lives across the street, and we were business partners. So there was a lot of togetherness. But there came a point where I was like, I'm ready to like figure it out on my own and kind of go in my own path. And so when I did that, I stayed with CB for a while. And I think it's so when I had my second child. So I had my first child in 2009, and it was very much all right, I stayed home with her during the day. My husband would come home and I would go do my showings and my appointments. And so it was a lot of that back and forth. And then a few years later, I had my second child and my business kept growing, but I didn't really know how or why. Or at the time I was like, something's actually happening here and I'm busy and I'm doing things, but like, I think I need to figure out like the systems and processes. Because I think this is actually a thing. And so that's when I found business coaching, and I connected with the Tom Ferry coaching company. And I can remember my first coaching call, and he was like, what CRM are you using? And I said, what's a CRM? Like, no joke. I was like, I have a spreadsheet. So that's where it really started. Okay, what are we doing? And it's kind of a weird, I think everybody kind of goes through this and like the different periods in your business, but I almost felt like I had to start all over again, because it felt like, okay, this is a business. How are we going to make this work? What are you doing next? And so really it just started with, okay, you need an assistant. And that's where it started building from there. And then from there, it went into, you need a buyer's agent. Oh, and by the way, nobody here had assistants. Nobody had buyer's agents. Those weren't things you were allowed to do. And so there were some barriers there, but that's where things really started changing, because fortunately, my business was growing and I was getting busier, but now I had children and I had to figure out what that balance was. And I couldn't continue to show homes nights and weekends 24/7. And so I had to figure out what help I could kind of bring in and start leveraging more to maintain the business and still have a personal life with my family. It became very challenging. I guess I'm also very, you know, it's hard to say no. I'm not going to lie. You know, everyone's always like, oh, that can wait, or it's not worth it. It's not worth it, but it's hard. It is for me. I'm going to be honest.
Well, I think what you did there, you know, one, I'm a big believer. I love helping agents get into the business, but I've always had coaching from day one of my career. So, you know, I believe that we all need a mentor. We all need coaching. You know, I was fortunate that I had it early on. So like I always had a CRM, right? I always had, you know, scripts and all those things. But I think, you know, with you getting with the Mike Ferry organization, it turned your real estate career from having a job to actually running a business.
100%. And I say that now today, like, to me, that's the biggest thing I would tell people of, I wish I would have had coaching from day one. And honestly, at the time, I mean, we talked about it, but like, you know, that's an expense, right? And so, but now having gone through it, I'm like, it doesn't matter what it costs. It's 100% worth it.
Yeah. I challenge agents, right, with some of that stuff. Like, instead of saying expense, it's an investment.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
really
and I challenge agents too. It's like, not every coach is going to be there to increase your production, you know, by 7 transactions or 20 or double your transactions, right? It's like, you may need that for different stages of your career, but I always tell people, like, what do you want from a coach, right? Like, for me, I don't need someone to show me how to get to 500 transactions. I know how to get there. Right. I don't need the systems. What I need is someone to bounce an idea off of. I need someone connection, right?
Yep.
So like
Yeah.
their circle, I want to be in their circle so that way I can be around other people across the country that are, in the circle.
Right.
And so I think sometimes agents get confused on what a coach is there to do. And I think there's different coaches for different stages of where you're at in your business. And
Sure.
I think a lot of times agents just think, oh, I'm going to hire a coach and my production's going to double.
No. You still have to do the work.
Well, you still have to do the work, but it still is like at the end of the day, like I always tell we all know what we need to do to increase our production.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's someone holding you accountable, right? Like I don't have a boss. I don't have somebody I have to report to at 9 a.m. every day. So having that to me is huge. So yeah, and getting into coaching and starting to build systems and adding people in, which by the way was also super scary because as I said, I probably wasn't running things like a business, right? And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to hire somebody and like maybe part-time. I don't know. Can I afford this? Like all of those things. And then quickly realize within the first 2 days, oh, clearly there's more than full-time work to be done here with adding people. So that's where the whole team started building over time and not even realizing that I was building a team or that was going to be like the goal, I guess. Because when I first got my license, I just assumed, well, I guess the next step is to become a broker at some point. Like, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. And then quickly realized that's not what I would like to do. I admire those that are brokers. There's a lot that goes into that. And that wasn't something that I felt I could commit to.
What is that for you? Because we're the same way. Like we have no desire to go start our own brokerage.
Yeah.
Why for you?
Why not?
Yeah.
Time, commitment, liability.
Yeah.
Honestly. And just with having children, I just didn't feel like that was something I really felt passionate enough to commit myself to. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're the same way. We see it all the time, right? And agents, and there's nothing wrong with going to start your own thing and doing your own, but it's like, man, there's so much more liability now. There's so much more paperwork now. There's so like
a full-time job just keeping up with all of that.
In today's world of real estate and real estate models, you can basically run your team like like we basically run our team like a brokerage within the brokerage,
Yep. Yeah.
Without having all of the other stuff that comes with having your own brokerage.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, for a long period of time, I operated off of an assistant, a transaction coordinator, and like a buyer's agent. And eventually, I felt like my time kind of came to an end at Coldwell Banker. Again, just with my coaching and what I was doing, I felt like I was just going down a different path. It felt more progressive. The people that worked in my office didn't understand the team concept. They didn't understand what I was doing. And I kept telling myself, like, it doesn't really matter like where you are or what brokerage you're under in a small town, because like, I'm just staying in my lane. I'm doing my own thing. So it doesn't really matter. But there did come a time where I was like, I could see where it would be nice to connect with other people that are doing the same thing. I can see where that would be like beneficial and maybe a little bit more of a motivator. And so that's when I found KW. Honestly, someone else in my market was thinking about transitioning, and just the fact that they support team models was exciting to me at the time. And so that's why I did that. That was right when COVID hit in 2020. And so it was a great opportunity. I had a great experience there and continuing to build my team. And I added several buyer's agents while I was there. But again, I kind of came to the end of that season and started connecting with other agents in eXp and not even realizing they were with eXp. So I think that's something I always like to point out to people, like, why eXp? And I was like, I don't know that it's like eXp, it's the people. It's the people for me. So yeah, fast forward to now, we just made that jump at the beginning of the year, which was about a year in process, because I really wanted to make sure it was the right decision for our team. And so that's where we are now. And like, just again, kind of coming to that point of feeling a little stagnant and wanting more for my team and opportunity and to stay progressive and to stay ahead, not only for my agents, but for our clients, and just all of those things that go along within, eXp, I think are incredible. And so that's why I've landed here.
And I try to tell agents, like, I think agents get caught up on like this whole idea, I can't switch brokerages 7,000 times because my clients are going to care. And I can tell you, I've been to 3 different brokerages in my 13 years now. And clients don't care.
No,
Like
they
they don't
don't.
even ask me. Very rarely do I even get asked what's eXp. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, most
and
people are like, so you're with who, you know what I mean? To the
right.
client, it doesn't like, as long as you're giving the level of service, you know, because that's what, like you said, you're basically operating a brokerage within a brokerage, right? So it's
Yeah.
whatever your model is or whatever your team's providing to that client is what's most important. So to your point, no, it doesn't. I don't think it impacts the client
Well,
experience unless you have your
and I
system in place.
yeah, and I tell agents, like, you just took us down your journey of your thought process of, going from one brokerage to the other. I believe a brokerage is there to serve you to get to that next level that you're trying to get to, right? And are
Mhm.
you in the right environment? Are you around the right people? Because and then there's even differences within that, right? Like, you could go to an EXP and be around the wrong people, right? You can go to a different, other brokerage office and maybe they're not as collaborative as the one that's across the street. You know what I mean? So I think, as agents, don't get caught up on, the switch. Just look at the business and be like, am I in the place that's actually going to help me get to that next step of where I want to get to in my business?
Absolutely. And I think with eXp, it's just so refreshing of everybody that I've come across is they want to help provide whatever they can provide. Like I've done it here. I've done it. You take it. I've done, don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And I live and work in an area where that is not, it's very guarded. It's very, can't share anything. If I've found success in doing something, like it's just not the culture around here. And so I think that's the other big thing is the culture.
Yeah.
I would like to hopefully just kind of shed a light on that in our area too, and let people know that you can all do business together in a very like, friendly manner, and you can share ideas with each other, even if you're not in the same office or the same brokerage, and we're all in this together and for the greater good of the client and all of those things that go along with that. So I found that to be really refreshing and motivating too, and just with the culture of eXp as well.
Yeah. Meredith, I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. And
Okay.
now I want to start looking into the future of what you're trying to do within the business and the team and where you're trying to get to. What's something that you're looking to accomplish here in the next 12 months? Any big goals?
Agents, adding agents to our team. And I did not think until this year that I was going to ever expand my team. So this is the first year that we've ever actively um, added agents to our team or actively said that we are open to adding agents to our team. So we've always been a small, close, tight-knit group. And just for me, again, I think just kind of that next step of learning other opportunities within the business. That's a goal. So I have a goal to add 10 agents to my team this year. And so far I've added 4 since the beginning of the year. So
That's awesome. 5-year goals. You got any 5-year goals?
Um, well, I'd like to say I'd like to be 100% out of production. That's a goal
There
that
you
kind
go.
of goes in and out. 100% out of production, leading a team that is doing what I'm doing, but maybe just not in
Yeah.
the production. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the hardest transition for agents.
It really is.
Because again, I think the majority of agents they have jobs, they don't have a business, right?
Yeah.
And there's not many, I mean, even in Columbus, there's not many team leads that are out of production.
Yeah.
The majority of them are still in production,
Yeah.
still selling. And, you got to be willing to take a few steps back, maybe in finances, maybe in ego a little bit, right? Like your numbers are going to dip probably a little bit, but it's that slingshot forward, right? And that's what allows you to have that freedom of time and all of those things. So that's a big goal. I like that for you.
And being passionate about helping our new agents or our existing
Sure.
agents like really build their business, right? And like that's
Mhm.
also what I love about eXp of like, if you would like to come into our team as a brand new agent and you're walking into an established business that's going to help you get launched and you're going to have a solid business from day one that I didn't have because I didn't really know as much as I do now. I want to help you do that. And I want to help you get there. And if at some point you're ready to launch into your own team or whatever that looks like again, going back to the culture and like not feeling like You're always living in scarcity that somebody's going to leave. Like, let them go and do their thing. Everybody will work together and benefit from it in the long run. So just that whole mind shift, I think is something we're really focusing in on our team too. So kind of making that a goal, I guess, if you will, too.
That's awesome. I like that. What's a legacy goal for you?
Ooh. What does legacy mean to you? I feel like that could go in a couple of different directions.
To me, it's how do I want to be remembered? Like, I'll give you an example of one of my missions, right? One of my missions is to positively impact the failure rate of our industry.
Okay.
Right? Because I had an experience that most other agents don't get, right? Like day one, I had a mentor. I had leads. I had CRM. I had someone that paid for coaching for me, right? I had someone that paid for an admin for me. I was given all of the tools that I needed at 22 years old, just as a recent college grad, to say, hey, go out and build your business in real estate. Now, I always tell people, if I didn't have Ryan, I wouldn't be in the business because, one, I was 22. I was a broke college kid. I'm not from Columbus, and I didn't really have the personality to go and figure it out. Like, that wasn't me back then. And so I needed to have all of those things already in place, and then someone to guide me, right? To be there on the day to day, and then someone to coach me and teach me. And so my passion is helping the new agents get into the business, because I know, just think about all of the people that have the potential, but they just go to the wrong place.
Yeah.
And they don't even know that they're at the wrong place, or they don't even, they're too scared to make the brokerage change or the team change, or, maybe they have too big of an ego and they're like, I just want to do it on my own. Right. And so for me, it's how do I want to be remembered? And also, like, I want to positively impact that failure rate that we have in our industry.
I think for me, I don't know if I can define it that concise like you, but really continuing to build my team and my group as a business that could be something longstanding for my kids. Like, that never occurred to me, and I think early on okay, I'm a real estate agent. Like, what does that mean? And like we said, treating it like a job and not a business. Like, honestly, until recently, it never even occurred to me that, like, I could actually be building something that my children could be a part of someday, if they choose to. No pressure.
Since 1850,
Since
right?
1853. Yes, my husband. So, never thought that I could actually achieve something like that, and I could have a long-standing business or company or whatever. So maybe not even for me and my family, but for the agents on my team to be able to do the same thing for their family.
Yeah, that's awesome. Last question for you. If you could give the audience one piece of advice that, you received early on, or maybe one that you give your agents, regarding the business, what would that be?
Ooh, one piece of advice.
If you have two, you can share two. That's okay.
Okay. Coaching, business coaching, 100%. Business coaching mentor, and make the calls, pick up the phone. It's not hard, but I think that's where people get stuck. Just do the work. Doing the work, you can be successful. If that's what I'm telling our agent, like, you will be very successful if you make the calls and do the work and do the follow up. So I think that's where things fall short.
I said last question, but now I got another one based off of that. What do you think gets in the way of agents not doing that, in your opinion?
I think that they're afraid. They're afraid that they're bothering people. I think that they're afraid of rejection. And it takes several times to follow up with somebody. It is very much, even now more than ever, right? So I think it's a fear of rejection, and just assuming that they're not interested, is kind of what I see.
Yeah. I heard this the other day. You truly have to believe in the product that you're selling can help the person you're calling.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
So it's like, you got to believe that if you're calling, buyer leads, internet leads, or whatever, right, that home ownership is a real thing that could have a huge impact on their life.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. If you're calling sellers, right, it may be, selling an asset that puts them into a different, income class that allows them to either move up or take their money and invest it into other things or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I just like that, right? Like, you truly have to believe in what we're able to help someone do, can truly impact them in a big positive way.
Yeah.
And maybe that helps you get over some of that fear.
Yeah, definitely.
But so Meredith, thanks so much for today
and
sharing your story. I loved connecting with you and getting to know you a little bit more. Those that are watching, if you guys are down in the Chillicothe area, if you're a real estate agent, if you want to join her team, hit her up. Her Instagram handle is down below. If you're thinking about buying and selling, make sure you guys connect with her, reach out. Meredith, for those that maybe are listening in on the audio version of the podcast, what is the best way for someone to connect with you?
I would say probably Instagram or honestly Google, but the Tomlinson group in Chillicothe or meredithtomlinson.realtor is my Instagram.
Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming on here today.
I appreciate the opportunity.
I look forward to having more conversations with you and seeing your team and your business grow.
Thank you. Appreciate it, John.
All right. We'll talk soon.
All right. Take care.